still a lot of people logging on, so I'm gonna give it a couple more minutes before we get started. But I wanted to hear like if you guys have been seeing some really cool breeding behaviors yet. I've seen a few species. Yeah, if anyone has something really exciting to share, I'd love to hear it.
Great horned on nests.
Nice.
Yeah, that was just the other day, a few days ago. It was very nice to see. Not a priority block, but nonetheless, a very nice sighting.
Yeah, nice.
I had a red-tailed territorial defense. Just one chasing another at lightning speed, like aggressively.
Mm.
So.
Nice. I've definitely seen them doing their, courtship flights.
Oh yeah, I've seen courtship too. Yeah.
And go ahead.
Here in New Hampshire, I had a pair copulating last week.
Nice.
And in New Jersey, I had raven on nest.
Nice.
We had
So I'd drive a red tail right down to the ground.
up in northern New York. We had ravens that were carrying sticks and putting them into a nest on a cliff.
Oh, nice. A cliff site. Awesome.
Yeah. Peregrines around there, but we haven't been able to actually see nesting activity, but it's in a place that they like to nest.
Nice. Well, definitely something to keep an eye on for sure. Nobody's mentioned any eagles. I've been seeing eagles are getting busy too.
Eagles on nests in Maine.
Mm-hmm.
I saw somewhat unusual. It was an immature eagle, bald eagle, that was carrying a stick. So I don't know if they practice or if they actually start nesting before they look mature, or what that
could be both. It could be either. It's very rare for an immature eagle to breed, and if they do attempt to breed, they often fail. But occasionally it does happen. But they also play nest as well, and they'll practice as well. So it could be either.
There's an eagle on a nest in Hamlin, west of Braddock Bay.
Nice.
Which many people have reported.
I've got a bald eagle on a nest outside of Walton. Unfortunately, it's not in any of my blocks.
Of course.
But I keep an eye on it.
Nice. Well, we're up to 82 people. And I do see a number of the regional coordinators on. So I wanted to start with just saying a broad welcome to everyone for this is our second field season. And I'm pretty excited as we've been talking about, there's lots of birds that are starting to breed already, and you can feel the excitement in the air with everyone singing and chasing and everything. So it's getting to be that time of year. I wanted to just welcome you all to the second year of the Atlas. And I wanted to start with brief introductions by myself and also the regional coordinators that are on here. And I do see additionally some steering committee members too. So I might ask people to just briefly say your name and where you're from and whether you're on the regional coordinator or if you're on the steering committee. So we'll start with me. I'm Julie Hart. I'm the project coordinator. So you've been getting lots of emails from me. And I am based in the Albany area. I actually work with New York Natural Heritage Program. So I'm going to have Matt, you go first, Matt Medler.
Okay.
Matt is going to be helping with coordinating all of your questions and comments for me tonight. So
Hi, everybody. It's great to see so many familiar faces and see some people whose names I've seen before, but never actually seen their face. So that's cool. I am originally from the Capital District. Spent a lot of time up in the Lake Champlain Valley, and then I've lived in the Ithaca area in central New York for much of the past 25 years. I'm helping to coordinate the northern region together with Jeff Bolsinger and Tom Wheeler.
Great. And I'm going to go to just in the order that people are appearing on my screen. So the next one up would be Sue Barth.
Hi, I'm Sue. I'm from the Erie County area, and I'm one of 3 regional coordinators in the Western District of the state. And I live in the Orchard Park area.
And Shirley.
I'm Shirley Shaw. I'm the president of the New York State Ornithological Association, which is one of the 7 partners in the Atlas. And in my role as president, I serve on the steering committee. I'm from Rochester.
Thank you. And Wendy.
Hi, I'm Wendy Tachi. I live in Kingston in Ulster County, and I, along with Ann Swaim, are regional coordinators for the Hudson region.
Perfect. And I'll have Ann go next. And
sorry, I'm actually on 2 different Zooms here, so I beg your pardon, trying to juggle. I am Ann Swaim, and I'm the other regional coordinator for Hudson region. And I, do I need to say something else? Let's see. No, I think that's all. That's cool.
Yeah, it sounds good. Thank you. Let's see, Andrea.
Hi, everybody. I'm Andrea Patterson. My pronouns are she and her. I'm originally from Fargo, North Dakota, but now I live in Rochester, New York, where I'm the director of the Braddock Bay Bird Observatory. I'm one of the co-coordinators of the Western region, along with Sue and Gail. And I sort of focus on the area around Rochester. So think NYSOA Region 2.
Hey, Molly.
Hi, I'm Molly Adams. My pronouns are she or they, and I'm one of 3 regional coordinators from New York City and Long Island, but focus primarily on New York City.
And Brendan.
Hello, everyone. I'm also working with Molly and Mike Scheibel. We are doing the Kingbird Region 10 area, which is New York City plus Long Island. I'm coming to you from Queens here.
And Kathy, you want to say?
I'm Kathy Schneider. I'm on the steering committee. I co-chair the steering committee with Matt Schlesinger, and I live in the Hudson Valley. And basically, I do what needs to be done for the Atlas.
All right. I do see Dan Miller. If you wanted to say something, you could. He's there.
Yep, I'm here. Yep, I'm Dan. I've been working on developing the sponsor a species website. I live up in northern New York and Cape Vincent.
Nice. And I think that is everyone. Does anyone else want to chime in? Did I miss a regional coordinator or steering committee member? Okay. So the way I wanted to structure tonight was I do want to give a brief demonstration, trying to follow up on the newsletter that went out last week and the Atlas skills that we highlighted in that newsletter, which was about basically how to use the website and the results that have been submitted so far to really help prioritize your atlasing. So I'm going to do a brief demo on basically how to use the website and look at the data. So I'm going to do that, and while I'm doing that, if you have questions that come up, please put them in the chat. And then Matt Medler will be reviewing those and compiling those. So then when I'm done talking, we'll go through and address those. And then if you have questions unrelated, Atlas topics but unrelated to my demonstration, then you can feel free to add those questions as well, and we'll try to get to as many as we can. And if you have like a really complicated, convoluted question, if you could just write in the chat and say that you would like to be unmuted, or have some live time, just let me know that too. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through and mute everyone first. Oh, I think my interesting. Make sure. My mute all, I'm not seeing my mute all. It's like gotten moved around on me. Matt, if you can find that, then that would be great too. And I'll just ask everyone to mute yourselves if you can for now, just to cut down on background noise. All right.
Yeah, I was going to ask you where that was. 'Cause
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Used to be right in the participant section. And I'm not seeing it now.
I'm just seeing individual mutes.
It got moved somehow. Okay, anyways. We'll monitor that, and if we start hearing background noise, if you become unmuted, then we'll probably just go in and mute you manually too. So all right, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So hopefully you can all see my screen now. So this is the article that I was referring to. This is the Atlas strategy article that we put in the last newsletter. And it was how to Atlas like a pro, basically helping you to become more efficient in your atlasing, prioritizing where you go so that you're maximizing the contributions that you're giving to the Atlas, and helping you to make a game plan for the year. So this is the link that you would have seen if you had clicked on that from the newsletter. So where I'm going to start, we'll come back to this article, but the first thing I want to do, because I've had a lot of questions lately about just how to navigate the website in general. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click up here in the left corner and go to the home. I'm going to click on the logo.
Hey,
So,
Julie, we're not seeing anything on the screen here.
Yeah, it's just saying that you started screen sharing, but it's black.
Oh, bizarre. Oh, okay, let me try it again.
It says
sorry for the technical difficulties. First time I've had these problems.
It's like Zoom updated and kind of mixed everything up.
Yeah.
That's a weird one. It looked like you did it right, and then it just was thinking about it. I don't know. I've never seen that myself.
Yeah, okay. Bizarre. All right, let's try this. How does this look?
Yeah, it's much better.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So what I had done was I started on the article, and then what I did is I clicked in the top left corner to get to the home page. So no matter what page you are in the Atlas portal, on the Atlas website, you can always get back to home by clicking on that logo. And then just a quick rundown of the home page is that you have your stats first. And then there are these nice, handy, quick links right below that image that takes you to all of the really key, important parts of the Atlas, including the calendar, all of the Atlas essentials, how to contact your regional coordinator, how to sign up for a block. And then you have all of the recent news, the featured Atlasers. And then you can scroll down, and there are a couple ways to search the results here, but I usually don't use this. I'll show you what I do use in a second. And then you can scroll down and get the same things that you see on the general eBird website, like the top photos and audio and such. So the big thing on the homepage is that you can see the recent news articles and you get these quick links here. Okay, so across the top of the screen, you have these different tabs. You have Submit, and that looks just like you would see it on the regular eBird site, except you have a little bit fewer options because this is designed just for the Atlas. But other than that, that's basically the same. The Explore tab is the one that we are going to focus the most on tonight. This is where you can actually search for and find all of the relevant information about what has been seen already across the state. And then the My eBird and the Science tabs across the top here, across this top menu, those take you to the same things that you would see on the regular eBird website. But then if you go to the About tab, this is where you will find all of the content for the website. This is where you'll see all the website pages. You'll find all the information that we've put together for you. And so here you can get to the Atlas team really quickly. You can go to Atlas team. You can scroll down to the regional coordinators, and you can click on the links to email your regional coordinator wherever you happen to be living. So that's a really important thing to note there. You can get all the information about blocks, about breeding behavior, how to enter data in the portal, change portal. You can go down to outreach and events, and then you can click on these different things. If you're a bird club, there's materials just for you for your bird club. If you click on the events, you'll come to our Google Calendar and you'll see all of the events that are coming up. And if you go to the, so this handy right sidebar is there your quick links. And if you go to tutorials, I'm just going to click through to tutorials. And this is where you'll get links to some webinar recordings, also Atlas video tutorials that I put together. And those are all located on our YouTube channel. And so, yeah, these are the like more in-depth material. This is like the core part of our website. In addition to that, we have news. This is basically our blog. These are the articles that show up on the homepage. But then they have other timely articles that are coming up constantly. So, you know, how to finish a block in 1 year. There's like a schedule in here for how you could, you know, take a virgin block, one that nobody has been to yet, and actually complete it in 1 year. So you can scroll through all of these articles and find really relevant information as well. So that's the big thing I wanted to point out, because some of these things on this top menu are related to the Atlas, and some of them will link you out to the main eBird site. But knowing that basically you're going to want to go to the About, the News, and then the Explore tabs. Those are the key tabs that you're going to want to be using. Okay. So that brings us to the Explore page. And on this page, this is my go-to page all the time. This is where I go and I look for anything related to progress on the project. So this, let me start with the New York State overview. So if you want to see how we're doing in the state as a whole, you're going to do the Explore Atlas regions on the top right, and then you just type in New York.
Which one do you pick?
Yeah, I don't know why it's always duplicated. Do you know, Matt?
Yeah, because there's the New York County for Manhattan. So one New York is for the state and the other one is for the county.
Okay, it's just not labeled. I always pick the first one.
You chose wisely.
I always do the first one, and that gives me New York State. Okay, so this is the overview page. This tells you how many checklists there are, how many atlasers there are. Yes, we finally hit 1,750. I'm really waiting for that number to hit 2,000. That's when I'm gonna be like really celebrating. And this gives us the rundown for all the blocks. On the left, it's slightly grayer, although it's really hard to see on some screens. And then you have the priority blocks on the right. So probably all of you have managed to get to this page before, but one thing you may not have realized, because it's really not obvious, is that you can sort these columns. If you click on these column headings, you can sort. So if I clicked on confirmed, and I'm going to click on it again, and I'm going to sort. So now I can see from most confirmed to down through least confirmed, or least number of blocks where that species has been confirmed. So this is where you can find really easily like the top 20 species that have been atlased the most, for example. You know, these are all of our really common abundant species that are widespread across the state. Or if I click on that again, I can then see, I don't know what this helmeted guinea fowl is doing in here. I'm probably going to remove that. But what you can do is see what species we have very few records for. And so where it starts to get interesting here is, you know, we only have one nighthawk and one whippoorwill nest confirmed. Roseate tern, there's only one block confirmed, and that makes sense because the only roseate tern colony for the state occurs within one atlas block. But other species here, let's see, barn owl, we have one confirmation. But the further down you go, so this white-crowned sparrow, that's also an error. That's probably a white-throated. But like white-winged crossbill, they're probably breeding in more blocks. So you could target some of these species down here to try to find more records. Upland sandpiper, that's one that's definitely breeding in more than 2 blocks. That's another one that could be targeted. Yellow-bellied flycatcher, same thing, definitely more than 2 blocks, but that takes a little bit more effort because you got to get high up in elevation. So anyway, this is kind of fun to play around with, that you can sort by the different column headings. You can also do that on the block pages as well. So if you're going on a block summary, you can also sort, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. Okay, so that's one of the first things that I always look to see how much progress we've made so far in the atlas. Another way that's really interesting to look at the data is to use this thing down here. It looks kind of obscure, but it's called the Atlas Effort Map. But this is really the best way to get a good sense of what blocks need to be worked on in your area. And so the default here right away when you open this tab is up here in the top left corner. It says diurnal effort hours. So these are number of hours in the daytime. But this is a drop down. So that's, I think a lot of people don't realize this is a drop down. So you can change this view into any of these other things. So one of the block completion guidelines that we have is that there's 20 hours during the daytime. And then also 2 hours at night. So if we change this map to nocturnal effort hours, you can see that hardly any blocks have nocturnal effort at all. There's a few that do, and they tend to be closer to populated areas. But even around these populated areas, even around Ithaca, which has the highest concentration of atlasers, there are still plenty of blocks that need that nocturnal effort. So that's a nice, easy way to if you're a night owl, that's a great way to contribute and find a way to really make your atlasing effective.
And
Another,
I'll just add one thing about nocturnal effort that, you know, it's always satisfying to hear an owl or a nightjar or something to do nocturnal when you're doing nocturnal surveys, but going out and listening for a half an hour on a block and not hearing anything, that's still valuable information. So be sure if you go out and you spend that effort that you submit that checklist, even if there's no birds on it.
that's a good point. This my block, hang on. My block. It's not updated yet. Last night I went out owling, as I mentioned before we got going, and I think I did 7 different stops for 5 minutes each. 0 owls, 0. I had no birds on any of those counts. So, but they're in there. There was at least effort made. I tried to get some great horns. I'll probably go back in another week or 2 and try again. So yeah, so that's nocturnal. One of the other things that you can look at is the number of confirmed species. And again, this allows you to see, well, actually, sorry, let me start with coded species first. So coded species, so basically anywhere in the state, there should be around at least 55 species. Like, even if you're in like suburban Long Island, even in New York City, you should be able to get 55 species in every block in the state. And so from, you know, you go here and you can see that, so 50 would be this medium orange here. And most anywhere you look on this map, there are blocks available that need to have additional species coded. So that includes, you know, possible, just like birds singing, birds in the right habitat, courtship, things like that. And then you can go a step finer and look at the number of confirmed species. And for that, you probably are looking at like 30 to 40. In really good blocks, you're probably looking at 50 species confirmed. You can see that even here, I'll zoom into Ithaca. Again, this is where there's a high concentration of atlasers. And most of these blocks, they're like really close to Ithaca, and they have, look at this one, has 19 species confirmed out of 106 that have breeding codes. So there are a lot of blocks in this, even around Ithaca, that still need a lot of attention. So that's another way to identify where to go. And then one other thing I want to point out, you've probably noticed on all of these maps that there have been some dead zones. These are the known unpopulated areas in the state. So you've got this whole Adirondack region, also this part around Utica. So Tug Hill and in the southwestern part of the Adirondacks also are lacking in a lot of effort. Then you've got this Catskills area, and then of course the Allegheny Plateau. So if you have any chance to go to those areas, pretty much anything you do in those areas is going to be new for the atlas. So one thing you can do once you have identified a block, there, this one. We'll zoom in on this block. This is the block that I signed up for, so I tend to know it pretty well. I still have a lot of work to do in this block, but one of the things that I'll do now that it's the beginning of the season is I will look at what has been done for this block last year. And I'll do that again, like I mentioned before, you can sort by the breeding evidence. So I can go through this list and I can see, oh, I've confirmed all these species. So I don't need to spend a lot of time when I'm in the field on trying to get more confirmations for them. But if I scroll down to some of these probables and possibles, those are where I should be spending my attention. And some of these I can look through. I can look through the species list and I can look at that in terms of different habitat types and looking at which species I might be missing. Or I can also look at the time of year when I visited the block. So we can do that. We can look at date. And one of the things that I know that I missed last year is because of COVID. I didn't travel much and I was spending a lot of time last March and April trying to convert all of our outreach materials into like virtual format. So I didn't visit my block or this block in March and April. So all of our resident birds, like all the like raven, crows, the woodpeckers, things like that, I completely missed in my block because I just wasn't there. So that's one way that I know, okay, I need to go back to this block and I really need to get some of those resident early breeders. That's my thinking here. Let's see. Oh, one other thing, if you go to the top of the page, another way to look at visits, you can also go to the recent visits tab, and this will show you the 100 most recent visits for a block. And so you can then also see the dates this way. So because most likely you're not going to be the only person that has visited a block. So it helps to take this overview, get the overview picture before you head out for the season and use that to kind of assess what needs to be prioritized. So one other way to explore the data, if we go back to the Explore tab, are these species maps. So if you're somebody, so for me, I tend to have the most experience with forest birds. That tends to be that's my habitat. That's where I'm like pretty confident and I'm really familiar with those species. But somebody else might be really familiar with grassland birds or wetland birds. And if that's the case and you really feel comfortable with that type of habitat and you really want to focus your efforts where you know you're really strong, then you can pick a species that is really common or fairly common in that habitat type and enter it. So say we're really good at grassland habitats. So Savannah sparrow is one of the more common grassland birds. So we can search for Savannah sparrow. I have to give it a minute. And what this does is it will show us where Savannah sparrow have been observed and where they haven't. So if you look at this map and you zoom into your area and you're like, oh, I know there's a grassland in this area, but if there's no Savannah sparrow reported, then that means that grassland probably hasn't been surveyed yet. So one other thing, I was looking at this Savannah sparrow map earlier today, and I noticed a couple of congregations here, clusters of data. It's taking me a long time here. There we go. So there's a couple of clusters. There's this area around Ithaca and then this area out here in Livingston County. So we can zoom into either of those areas. And then one thing I would recommend doing is up here, you can change the date period. The default is year round, but if you're looking at a passerine species, one of our migrants, you probably want to just change that to June and July. And then you'll see a lot of those possibles disappeared. So now you have pretty good confidence that the possible and probables that are left here are probably are probably their breeding. They're probably local breeders. So you can use this and like we can zoom in on this block and we can say, oh, this block had several birds in late June. We could go there and we could try to increase that code from a possible to a probable or confirmed. Or if you know in this block over here that there's a grassland that should have savanna sparrows, then you could go there and target those. I found this area out in Livingston County. You see this cluster here. It looked like somebody had done like a driving route and hit a lot of points and documented them, savanna sparrows all across this region. But as you can see, they're all possible. So if you were like in the Rochester area, for example, you could make a day trip and easily go down and hit some of these priority blocks in a couple months and bump those up to probable or confirmed if you see them carrying nesting material or something like that. Okay. I think that's all the main big ticket items that I wanted to cover with the website. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at the data and you can really think about what your strengths are, what your interests are, what your available time commitment is, and really tailor your atlasing to that. But I do recommend, playing around with these tools before you go out. If you have like a choice of where you're going to go and when you're going to go, I definitely recommend looking at these tools before you go so that you can really maximize your contributions to the atlas. Okay, I talked plenty. Matt,
Yeah.
have you been able to keep up with questions?
Yeah, so there are kind of two main questions to start with. The two questions revolve around the completion of a block. And so it's the first thing would be, my block is, well, when will we find out if my block is complete? And then if you have a block that's nearly complete, should you focus your efforts this year on trying to complete that block, or should you go someplace new? For example, Glenn and Melinda have done a lot of atlasing in the Champlain Valley, the Adirondack foothills. They're wondering if they should focus on their 6 blocks again, or if they should go into some blocks in the more remote parts of the Adirondacks where they haven't been visited at all.
Okay, great questions. Let me start by showing you one thing on I'm going to go to the About tab. And then if you go to the blocks link, the blocks page, and then if you scroll down, so there's a lot of really useful tools on here. So there's information about how to know where you are in the field, how to read a block map and identify habitats and places to visit. And then down on the bottom here, there's an overview of the block completion guidelines. And then there's a page here that says how to tell if a block is finished. So in this article, I step you through all of the different completion criteria and how you can use basically what we just stepped through, how to use the results that have been submitted to the Atlas, on the Explore tabs, how to use the Explore tabs in order to assess whether or not your block is finished. And the thing at the very bottom is if you think that your block is complete, down here, email your regional coordinator and they will be able to take a quick look at it, and they'll be able to say, oh yeah, it definitely looks complete. Let me forward it to Julie. And then I'll take a look at it as well. And if I agree, then I will mark that block complete. If we think that there are still some things outstanding, then we'll probably get back to you and say, oh, well, it's missing, you know, rock pigeons or something really like common that maybe was overlooked and indicates that that a little bit more could be done in that block. So we'll get back to you that way. In terms of weighing, so if you think that your blocks are complete, then I would definitely go somewhere else. It's tricky in the Adirondacks. That's a little bit trickier because we know that we're going to have poor coverage there. So if you think your blocks are like 90% complete, yeah, it might be worth going to new blocks, and then somebody else could come in and clean those blocks later. Or you could come back later and clean those blocks up. We definitely need to get more people into these more remote areas. And so the sooner the better, because it does take a lot more time and effort to get into those areas.
So there's two follow-up questions kind of related to confirmed species. So Suzanne asked, how do I see my list of confirmed species? And then Sean asked a target species page, which seems to show what birds an individual needs for a block, but not what the block needs.
Yep.
So if you want to.
Yeah. Yeah, I get asked those two questions a lot. And just last week, there's some independent researcher that actually put together a tool. And I posted it on our Facebook page today, but it is called birdstat.com, I believe. Yeah, birdstat.com. So if you want to see your list of confirmed species, you can use this website here. What you'll do is you'll go to your MyEBird, download your MyEBird data set, and then you're just going to pop that file into this. You're going to just copy it over here into this left-hand side. And then it's going to show you, let me just see if I have my, yeah. Let's see if this works real quick. There we go. So there you go. There's all my data. That's all my eBird data. So one thing you can do is go to breeding codes. And give it a second. Come on. There we go. So I can type in that I want to see my breeding codes for the state of New York. And I can also do different counties if I wanted to. And I can also do by I can just do 2020 and 2021. So there I can see not only all the species that I have confirmed, but also how many times I have confirmed each of those species. So this is a pretty cool tool if you're trying to track your progress. There is also additional tools for breeding codes. If you go up to graphs, breeding codes. So here you can see that most of my breeding codes are for singing. That's really, try to zoom in a bit. So you got singing, habitat, singing, pair, carrying food, courtship. So you can see like how often you used a different code. You can also see here for me, you can see how many breeding codes I have used over the years. So 2018, I was participating in the Connecticut Breeding Bird Atlas, and then 2019, I was trying to catch up with all my breeding atlas behaviors in New York, and then 2020, the atlas started. So yeah, so this is one really cool thing to do, play around with that. I think it's pretty fun. And then the other thing is, Sean is right that if you're on your homepage and you're looking at your stats, sorry, you're seeing in a block. So if we scroll down to, nope, not there. Sorry, wrong place. We go to explore and species you need. So yeah, any of the target species things are going to be based on what you need compared to what has already been submitted to the atlas. So there is no way currently to say that in this block, to say that this block should have this list of species, and these are the species that are needed for this block. Like, that set of data doesn't exist. So all the eBird can present to you is what you need based on what everyone else has submitted. So what I recommend doing, the one way to kind of get an idea of what species are needed in a block, is to, if you go to any particular block, so if we go to Westerlo, let's just do this. And then, there we go. So any block you're at, you can go to the top here, and then you can click on Albany, the county, and click on Albany County. And then you can use the county list as kind of like, these are the species that probably should be seen in my block, provided there's adequate habitat. So that's the only way I can indirectly get you to that information that you're looking for. I agree that would be a great addition to have, but it currently doesn't exist.
I think there was one other question from Gail. This is kind of a problem that we'll be happy to have, I think. So her question is, a block gets completed, you know, there's we meet all the thresholds, but then after the block is marked as completed, people end up spending more time birding there, and they bring the species list up higher so that the percentage of confirmed species, which was above 50%, drops down so it's below 50%. Are we just going to say that's good, it was confirmed, we're keeping it that way, or is there the possibility of a block getting unconfirmed?
That's a great question, one that we have not fully fleshed out yet in the methods committee. So one little piece of background information is that I am still going through and reviewing the data from 2020. And then once all of the data have been reviewed and edited, and that's all uploaded to eBird, you'll be able to see those changes, and it's going to reset all of these block totals and the state totals and everything. So it's going to remove all those migrants and the courting waterfowl and things like that. So once all that's done, then the methods committee is going to sit down and really figure out how best to assess completion of blocks, and we'll start marking them as complete. I have marked a couple blocks complete just because they were like so obvious and over the top, and I was like, people stop going here. Like, but we'll do a more comprehensive assessment later this spring. So yeah, I'm not sure exactly on that question, but yeah, we'll figure it out soon.
And there was one other question. I answered it, but it'd be good to get your feedback as well. Question was for remote areas in the Adirondacks. Should we focus more on a priority block, even if there's difficult access, or on an adjacent non-priority block with easier access that will be easier to complete? So my answer was that one of the main goals is to complete all the priority blocks. So focus on the
Correct.
priority blocks.
Yeah, focus on the priority blocks if you can. I mean, if you're able to, like, there's definitely some blocks that are roadless and trailless even. There's some blocks that don't even have hiking trails in them. So those are going to be saved until somebody really fit and comfortable in the wilderness goes to there. So if you're able to hit those difficult priority blocks, then hit those first. If there's nowhere else for you to go comfortably, then by all means go to a non-priority block. But
I think that was all the questions. If someone put a question in the chat and I missed it, please feel free to share it again.
there must be more questions. There were lots of questions before we started. And your question can be about anything Atlas related. So
I have a question. Should I have coded my circling bald, if I had adult bald eagles circling together, should I have coded that as courtship?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yep,
Because
definitely.
I'm afraid I'm going to overcode things that aren't really what they seem to be.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're doing in this atlas is we're asking you to code any type of breeding behavior that you observe, even if it seems really early. I still would code that.
Okay.
Even if you know that it's not breeding locally, we still want you to code that.
I had 3 red-tailed. One was an aggressive bird chasing another, and then I had a pair circling together. So would that be courtship, and that would be a higher valued code, and I would put that instead of the territorial defense?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Yep, use the highest code for each checklist.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I had a question today. I was actually pondering this. So for the past over a month, I've had a pair of red-breasted nuthatch coming to my suet feeders. And I say a pair because you can see that they're male and female and they come together. I see them at the same time. And so today, so it's March and I'm thinking a pair, interesting. And I read, I'm in Dutchess County, so we have a lot of local records that I can refer to. And I was reading about how in eruption years, there tend to be more breeding pairs here in our county. So I was debating, like, should I code these two now or should I wait till April, or wasn't sure what to do. I mean, I have habitat. I have big, very mature spruce trees, Norway spruce, and a whole bunch of very mature white pines. So there are nesting trees for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so with the pair code, I always like to see some sort of interaction between the individuals. So just if you have like a male and a female together at particularly near feeders, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a mated pair. So I like to see either some sort of courtship or like, sitting really close together, something like that shows that they actually recognize each other as their counterpart, as their mate. So I tend to hold off on pair until I'm pretty sure that they're hanging around, that it's kind of in their normal expected breeding season. And then I would enter them. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like yeah, you probably will have some nesting red-breasteds in your area this year. That sounds great.
So should I code anything now at all, like habitat or nothing?
Yeah, if you think it's breeding there, then yeah, for sure. Even singing, you know, if you hear like singing white-throated sparrows, even though they're not going to breed, well, depending on where you are, I would still record them too. Yep.
Thank you.
I have an interesting question, something that we can only get into now that we're into year 2 of the Atlas. And that was, I heard a great horned owl last year once and this year once at the same place. Can I code that as S7, singing more than 7 days apart?
No, we ask it to be within a breeding season, unfortunately. I do see a hand raised. Dan Miller, did you want to say something? Ask a question?
Nope, that must be my mistake.
Okay.
I've got another question.
Yeah.
So it's a general question. How does a block become a priority block?
Oh, so we basically chose every center east and northwest block. So for every topographic quad, there's six blocks, and we chose the center east and the northwest. And then there are a few cases where there was so little land area within the state, so they're either bordering another state or they're coastal, that we removed those from being priority blocks as well. There's a few cases of that, but generally every center east and northwest.
So if you look on the maps that Julie was showing before, it's not the most obvious thing. It'd be nice to have maybe a different color, but there is kind of a checkerboard pattern of, or maybe a zigzag pattern of the priority blocks going all the way across the state.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now when we have 2 minutes left, the questions are coming fast and furious.
Yeah.
From regional coordinators. You all
yes,
should know
I see that.
There's a coding question for owls. Is calling back and forth between a male and female considered breeding? It's a sign of breeding. So that would be
courtship.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. Yeah. Particularly like great horned owls will duet, barred owls also duet, and that's courtship. If they're counter, like if you're hearing two males, you know, in some owl species, you can tell by the pitch of the sound if it's a male or a female. If you're hearing like two males counter singing, then that would just be singing. But if you're hearing them like singing and playing off of each other, which is really fun to hear, then that would be duetting, which is courtship. Yeah, I see Andrea's question too about, she says, besides owls and woodcock, can you say a little about what other species we might be looking for in nocturnal surveys and what times of year and even best time of night are best for them? That's pretty long answer. I feel like I would have to give a long answer. So you've got owls, and they're different. They're going to be active at different times of year. So great horns are active now. Some of the smaller owls aren't going to be active really until April. So depending on what species you have, they're going to be active at different times of year. Most owls aren't active. You're not going to hear them until after dark. Usually within like the hour or so after dark is probably the best time to hear them. Woodcock, they're starting to arrive back now, and they'll start doing their display flights anytime. And so from parts of, mid-March through into June, you'll be having woodcock doing their flight displays, and they're active right before it gets dark until probably the peak is like half an hour before it gets pitch black, right? Okay, then you have night jars. night jars, and I'll be putting together a lot more information about night jars this year. We put out a request last minute last year to do some night jar surveys, and we're trying to do a little bit more thorough atlasing this year for all of the night jars. So we have nighthawks, whippoorwills, and Chuckwill's widow. And those you're going to be listening for in May and June. And nighthawks are probably a little more active right around dusk, whereas the whippoorwills and Chuckwill's widow are going to be at night when it's dark. And then the other big group would be your rails, so a lot of your wetland species. Those you're going to get in May, June as well, and those you'll hear at dusk and at dawn as well. So if you get out early enough in the summer, you'll hear them calling in the summer too. So those are the big groups of nocturnal species. There are lots of other birds that also vocalize at night. So there's other things that you'll be likely to hear, but those are the big groups of target groups that we focus on for nocturnal atlasing.
And just one more question. This is a theme that we covered before, but probably worth repeating. So again, it gets to that question of should I prioritize my time to complete a priority block or start focusing on unsurveyed priority blocks? And this particular question says once I get about half, once I get about half confirmed total species. So if you're close to 50% confirmed, if you're kind of 90% of the way there, then start focusing your efforts on new blocks, but also make sure that you wrap up your other blocks, but have most of your effort be on priority blocks.
Yep. That sounds good. I think there was Brandon had a question. Is that right?
Yeah, he can ask us anytime though.
Yeah, I just asked really quickly. So one of the most basic codes is H, bird is in habitat. I was just wondering if it's sort of a burden on the atlas if we're using that too much. And of course, once migration happens, any bird that isn't flying over that's using the habitat is eligible for that code. So is it even worth it, or is really any bird that's being seen in June uncoded is getting the H anyway?
Yeah. Yeah, how much detail do I get into here? So in order for the H code to actually provide information to the atlas, this is like the one exception to, so all the other codes are behavior-based codes. And for those, we want you, like, if you see that behavior, you report it, regardless of if it's locally breeding or not, because we can sort out that information later, right? So we can say, oh, we know that Cape May warblers don't breed in the Hudson Valley, so we can remove those later. The problem with the H code is that if everyone uses it for every observation, then there's no way for us to be able to like distinguish, did they actually, like, was the local habitat right there appropriate for that species or not? So ideally, you would only be using the H code if you suspect that it's actual breeding habitat for that species. So yeah, I would try not to overuse that code. There's some, we can weed out some of those just because we know that certain species aren't breeding in a particular part of the state. But there are certain species, like if you think of like a junco or white-throated sparrow, it's a very small elevational gradient where they are breeding or aren't breeding, right? And so it's a lot harder for us to easily weed out the ones that shouldn't have that H code. So rather err on not using the H code unless you're like in the heart of that breeding, the breeding season for that species.
Brilliant, thank you.
All right, any other questions?
Quick question.
Yeah.
Can you tell us where to get bird stat again?
Yeah. There.
Thank
I
you.
just put it in the chat. Yes.
Thank you.
And I also posted it on our Facebook page today too. It's a pretty cool little tool. All right, well, we plan to have a town hall. Whoops, you're right, Steve. Yep. birdstat.com.org. We plan on holding a town hall every month through August. So we'll, continue sending the newsletter at the beginning of the month, and then like a week later, we'll have the town hall, and those dates are going to probably vary a little bit because I want to make sure that people with different recurring schedules can attend. The next one is on a Wednesday in April. What is it, the 7th, I think? And that's going to be a little bit different format because that's going to be our kickoff. And so it'll be a little bit longer, and I hope we'll be able to organize breakout sessions too. And then I know Sue has a talk coming up on Wednesday, and there's some other talks scheduled for later this month. And yeah, other than that, please feel free to contact me or a regional coordinator, or post your questions on the Facebook page, and have fun out there. All right. Good night, everyone.